Shalom, hello. My name is Rabbi David Cohen. I'm the rabbi of a congregation Or Torah in North Woodmere, New York, and I'm also a member of the RCA Executive Committee. This week's Parsha, Parshas Chayei, of course, begins with Avram Avinu attempting to negotiate a burial plot for his beloved wife, Sarah Imenu. And of course, he negotiates with Ephraim Achiti and ultimately is able to acquire the Maras HaMachpelah, where the various zugos, or the various couples in Klal Yisrael, the patriarchs and matriarchs, are of course interred, they are of course buried. I thought this would be an opportune time possibly to talk a little bit about the interplay and the interrelationship between the avos and the imos, the patriarchs and the matriarchs, and the balancing act that HaKadosh Baruch Hu in essence invests in our models, Ma'aseh Avos Simon Labanim, that we can derive and we can learn from the avos and imos. Rav Rosenzweig, who is Rosh Yeshiva YU, explained many years ago that Avram Avinu, of course, is an expression, the embodiment of Midas HaChesed, that he is absolute kindness. We find this, of course, in Parshas Vayera, after he's recovering from the Bris Milah and his deep desire for guests. We find this in other expressions of his kiruv work, always reaching out, always trying to make an impact, always trying to help others. And to balance Avram Avinu's midah of Chesed, he is paired with Sarah Imenu, who is emblematic of Amidas Hadin. And this we see expressed through her directive of Garishat Ha'ama Azot, of throwing out Hagar from her house, throwing out Hagar's son Yishmael from her house. Again, this is not meant to communicate in any way that Avram Avinu doesn't have components of Din and that Sarah Imenu doesn't have components of Chesed, but the aspect of their persona that's most accented in the episodes that I read about in the Torah is these ideas of Chesed on the one hand and Midas Hadin on the other hand. If we continue to progress to the relationship between Yitzchak and Rivka, which of course culminates in this week's Parsha, Parshas Chayei, Avram Avinu sends his trusty servant Eliezer to find a wife for Yitzchak. Yitzchak is an expression of Midas Hadin. He's the Ola Tamima, he never leaves Eretz Yisrael. The name Yitzchak represents the Osios Ketz Chai, end of life. There's a certain intensity to the Avodas Hashem of Yitzchak Avinu. Avram Avinu, understanding that, has to try to find a wife who can counteract that or who can counterbalance that. And that, of course, is the personality of Rivka Imenu, who is an extreme in Midas HaChesed. Because not only do we see that she makes sure that all the individuals who need water, etc., by the well, that they are provided for, but she's also careful to ensure that the gemalim, that the camels also have that which they need. She's somebody who has an extreme component of Midas HaChesed to balance out the Midas Hadin of Yitzchak Avinu. And finally, when we arrive at the persona of Yaakov Avinu, we're taught in the Torah, Al Pi Kabbalah, Yaakov Avinu's midah is Tiferes. Tiferes, glory, or maybe synthesis, is actually a beautiful expression of both the midos of Avram and Yitzchak combined, creating midas Tiferes, which is the splendor of Yaakov Avinu. He takes the chesed on some level of his Zayda Avram. He takes the din, or the strictness, or the intensity of his father Yitzchak. He combines them together and creates some sort of combination which is expressed in the personality of Yaakov, who ultimately becomes Yisrael, which is the midah of Tiferes. I saw in a sefer once by Rav Schlesinger from Eretz Yisrael, he suggested as follows. He said that based on this mahalach, that if Yaakov Avinu is the midah of Tiferes, so it's interesting that he has two primary wives, Rachel and Leah. He's the only Av who has two primary wives who are imahos. And the reason possibly for that is that if Yaakov is actually this midah of Tiferes, this synthesis, so he needs two personas in his wives who can counteract and counterbalance his midos. So you can have on the one hand Rachel Imenu, who some can suggest is midas HaChesed, because she gives over the simonim, the signs to her sister Leah to ensure that she is not embarrassed in terms of her being able to marry Yaakov first. And Leah, who Eineha Rakot, which is explained Kabbalistically as a certain dower expression, which talked about her destiny for Esav, and she was preserved and saved from that, but she certainly has more of a Midas Hadin disposition. So this amalgamation and this expression of all the Amos, Avos, and Imos is meant on some level to communicate to us, Masa Avos Simon Labanim, that we in our own lives have to try to incorporate different midos. We have to try to explore them, ultimately to synthesize them, and ultimately to express them. And particularly when it comes to parenting, it's crucial, it's critical that different midos, you can call it good cop, bad cop, however you want to express it, that different midos are expressed in the household, the children are able to get a mixture. If both parents are midas hadin, ay vavai for the children. If both parents are midas hachesed, so there may not be room either for children to be able to inculcate, ideas of discipline and important midos that are also critical for children to have. And finally, I just want to end with a beautiful idea that I once heard from Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau, famous chief rabbi of Israel formerly and now chief rabbi of Tel Aviv, where he once suggests that the Osios Yisrael, right, we're the children of Yaakov, Bnei Yisrael, and the Osios Yisrael actually encapsulate all of the Avos and all of the Imos. The Yud represents Yaakov and Yitzchak, the Sin represents Sarah, the Reish represents Rachel and Rivka, the Aleph represents Avram, and the Lamed represents Leah. That encompassed within Bnei Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, are all the different midos and all the different contributions of each of the Avos and the Imos, and we who are the descendants, Bnei Yisrael, so we also have to inculcate within our being, within our essence, the midah of chesed, the midah of din, and to find the appropriate balance for both of them, and to pass them on for future generations. Have a gewaldic, amazing week.